Alright, this is, I think, a great exercise to work on your left hand as far as drumming goes. We all know what you can do with your weak hand and with other stuff. Nya, 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 nya. But watch this. What we can do is, if you keep it in a musical context, okay? I find, especially for me, because of the vast disparity between the quality of my ability to move a stick around and keep time and or hold consistent ostinatos or whatever the hell you want to call it with my weak hand, which is my left hand. Check this out. So obviously what you do, typically what happens in books, they talk about like in stick control. You'll see stuff like, things where there's a bunch of L's. Do you know what I mean? L, L. All right, check this out. I think one of the best ways to do, and with the kids I teach, I always tell them when I teach them beats, I have them not necessarily to expect in the short run to master playing time with their left hand, but at least devote some time to it, okay? Like this. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and I know a lot of people do that. But this is what I would recommend, especially if there's a vast disparity of quality between your strong hand and your weak hand, is keep time with your left hand, with your weak hand, but keep your right hand out of it. Just keep it out, because the right hand, like I said in the other videos, where your right hand is so much better, it almost pulls your left hand along, or your weak hand along. I think it compromises the effectiveness of your weak hand playing most of the time, or notes, or just moving around by itself, at least in the short run. I think once you close that gap, then you can move on to all the other rote things that exist as far as stick control and everything are much more helpful in the weaving together of the skill of the hands. But sometimes I feel like I think it's especially early on in playing, or at least in my case, if there is a vast disparity, to devote a lot of time to what I'm going to show you, okay? So my right hand's out of it. My right hand's, you smoke it if you got it, it's over here, hanging out. My left hand, watch, so I'm just going to play some time. And it's very helpful, I find, is if you play like a melody, and play and or sing to a melody, okay? Because it sort of takes the pressure off of sort of keeping it as sort of like a physical exercise as opposed to something musical, which most drummers I think are musical, okay? For example, watch. So here, don't laugh, but it is really helpful, I think you'll find. So, ba-da-da-ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. We'll play some time. Ba-da-da-ba-da-da-ba-ba. That's what's going on in my head. Now I'm not playing to a click track. I'm just doing it free-handed now. Now let me stop talking, because it's messing up my ability to concentrate on my weak hand. Just imagine, make a melody like something as simple as this. Ba-da-da-ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. Ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-da. But here we go. For a while, you'll start giving your weak hand, at least in my case, it sometimes can get to be a lot to suddenly start doing too much with it too soon, meaning keeping the backbeat with the snare and then doing fills and stuff. So what I find helpful is just to play what would be eighth notes here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and just move it to different surfaces, okay? Like here's a standard drum kit, a snare, rack tom, floor tom, bass drum. I have one crash cymbal here, crash ride, and then my beautiful 15-inch pair of early 70s new beat hi-hats, which I think are my finest sounding hi. I love them to death. I'm by and large a Pisces guy, but anyway, let's move on to what we're talking about. So keeping time, okay, with the weak hand, moving it around, but in chunks of bars. So 1, 2, 3. You know what I'll do? I'll put on it does help with the metronome too, okay? I mean, it does. I mean, I've been working long enough now. If you do have a huge disparity, forget about the metronome in the short run, okay? Because it's going to kind of have the effect of your strong hand sort of pulling it along. But what I'm going to do in my case, because of kind of where I think I'm at now, I'm going to put it 106 beats per minute. 106 beats per minute. Tick, tick. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've heard metronomes that actually say that. 1, 2. I would throw that out the window so fast. I just like that ding, ding. Okay, ready. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Remember, I'm going to do eighth notes here, which would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. My strong hand is elsewhere. So see what I'm doing here? I'm just playing time. I am, in this case, keeping the accent, okay? Because I'm thinking about it melodically. So I'm keeping a backbeat, but on the surface that I'm playing on, okay? The hi-hat. And, you know, the way you play the bass drum is secondary. I'm just kind of giving it like the Eagles. Ba, ba, ba. So just kind of like a sort of a straight. 1 and 2 and okay? But the important part is my weak hand. So I'm doing it just on the hi-hat here. Again, when I talk, it sort of throws me off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just on the hi-hat for a little while. Then I'm going to move it to the snare. But it's important. I'm going to stop talking. That you don't distract. The act of observing disturbs the observed, right? So that's what's happening here. So I'm going to shut up and just watch what I do. 1 and 2 and 3 and. My head, I just have like a simple melody going. Well, I hope I convey the idea well enough. Let me shut this thing off for a minute. Silence! As it goes. So what happens there, at least at that, so there's various dimensions. There's the tempo you want to work at, slower or faster, but also the dynamic, how hard you want to hit it, which will also might dictate your grip, too, okay? I'm playing pretty much a German thing here. And I'm just, what I did after, not the very first thing I did, but was just, again, keep it on one surface. Because our weak hand doesn't have a lot of experience. You know, when we first get into playing the drums, or the drum set as such, we'll naturally, with our strong hand, keep time with our right hand. Well, instantly what that does, I mean, right off the bat, your right hand or your strong hand is suddenly getting so much more work, so much more experience keeping, just as far as sheer endurance and practice at keeping a steady beat, working on the muscles, the whole package, okay? So you could say, you could distill it down to a very simple thing, just switch hands, right? Play time with your left hand, which is what a lot of folks do. What I said before, as far as sometimes if there is such a wide disparity between quality of playing with each hand, sometimes it's good to get the strong hand out, okay? So that's really the lesson here, okay? But it's really important, again, with ADD drummers like ourselves, to do it, okay? What happens is, I'm telling you, as I've said before, you know, so often you'll do it for about a minute. And then after a while, suddenly you're like... want to move into something else, and you'll start playing other stuff, and then... So, but what you need to do, treating your weak hand in its own separate little compartment, devoting some time to that. I think it'd be very helpful. I think it's like Chutes and Ladders, or the game of Sorry, when there's a ladder, right? And you shoot kind of to the next chunk. I hope this analogy works. But that's really what happens, because your right hand's already primed and sort of ready to be out in the basketball court. We're kind of like, all right, come on, buddy, let's go. Come on, let's get out there. Come on, let's go. All right, let's play. But your left hand, your weak hand needs some time on its own, really to sort of train and get up to speed, right? Okay. So again, I find it helpful with the melody. It's not so rote, you know what I mean? So, and just do it for a while. And when you start feeling a little fatigue in your hands, stop and work on some other stuff, okay? So this isn't anything in lieu of doing any paradiddles or things like that, but this is something that is entirely meant and very helpful for your weak hand to bring it up to be able at a better quality of matching endurance and speed and control to then engage the strong hand in doing these things in stick control stuff, right? Does that make sense? Thanks for watching my videos. There's a bunch more coming soon.